Last week I gave a shir in the Sugya shir to the men about the entire conversion process being modeled after the giving of the Torah. And that in itself is an explanation as to why we read the book of Ruth on Shavuos. We read the book of Ruth on Shavuos because when we received the Torah, we all converted to Judaism, just like Ruth converted to Judaism. So this is supposed to remind us that we all emanate from the same source. In other words, we all have common experiences, both the natural-born Jew and the convert to Judaism. We really all have the same experience, whether it was us or whether it was a parent of ours or a great-grandparent of ours. We all converted to Judaism at one point, and that's something that's quite significant and important for us to remember, especially when dealing with Gerim in our community. We have to be sensitive to that, and the Torah tells us to love the convert at least 27 times in the Torah. So the Rambam was once very, very critical of a colleague of his who discriminated against the convert and said that this person is going to face very, very severe punishment because the Torah says at least 27 times that you have to be especially sensitive and loving of the convert. So that in itself is a reason why we would want to read the book of Ruth on Shavuos. But I think there are a number of other reasons as well, and I just want to present to you one reason that has to do with the very important interchange that takes place right after the men of the family pass away in the very first chapter of Ruth. So you know the story is that Elimelech and his two sons, Machlon and Kilion, tragically die in the plains of Moab, and Naomi decides that she's going to go back to the land of Canaan, to Eretz Yisrael. And as a result, she's left bereft just with her two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, and she tells them, go back. And she says to them, Yitein Hashem lachem u'mitza'ena menucha isha beit isha. Go back, you'll find peace, you'll remarry, you'll find a new husband. Vatishak lahen, and she kissed them. Vatisena kolan vatifkena, and they raised their voice in cries. And they both said to her, no, we want to stay with you. And Naomi says to them, go, my daughters, why would you want to come with me? I have no more sons to give you as husbands. I can't replace what I've already given to you. And then she says, at the end, Vatisena kolan vatifkena od, that after Naomi presents her argument as to why they should leave, they both lift their voices in wailing and cries. Vatishak Orpah lachamota, and Orpah kisses her mother-in-law, Virus davkava, but Ruth clung to her. Okay, this is the contrast that the pasuk creates for us, and we know that Orpah left and Ruth persisted. But the Gemara in Sota, page Mem Bet Amud Bet, page 42b, tells us something very interesting. The Torah, the Navi rather, in Shmuel Bet records that there were 4 sons that were born to a woman named Orpah in Gath, in a city called Gat. And they vayiplu biyad David uviyad avadav. And all of these 4 sons fought with David, and they fell into the hands of David. David defeated them. David killed them. So the Gemara asks the question, who were these 4 sons? Maininhu. Who were they? Amar Rav Chizda, Safu Medon Goliath, V'yishbi Benov. And the Gemara identifies what their names were. One of them was Goliath. According to tradition, they were all gigantic people, humongous warriors. And V'yiplu biyad David uviyad avadav, and they fell into the hands of David and the hands of his servants. And the word Harpah is none other than Orpah, as is recorded in the book of Ruth. And where do you see that they were predestined to fall into the hands of David? Dichsiv, as it says in the pasuk, Vatishak Orpah lachamota, Virus davkaba, that Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, and Ruth clung to her. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak says, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God says, Yavo'u b'nei hanishuka v'yiplu biyad b'nei hadivuka. Let those who are the descendants of the nishuka, of the kisser, fall into the hands of the clinger. That's the language of Chazal. Let the children of the kisser fall into the clutches of the clinger. Now, how do we understand this? This is a very strange Gemara, and it doesn't seem to make any sense. Why is it that just because Orpah kisses Naomi, it's one thing to say, let those who forsook fall into the hands of those who clung, but it doesn't say that. It says the fact that Orpah was a kisser meant that she was going to fail, and her children were going to succumb to the hands of the children of those who clung to Naomi. And I think that there's a very profound lesson over here having to do with this metaphor of kissing. If you take a look in Shir HaShirim, it says, the beautiful pasuk at the very beginning of Shir HaShirim, Perek Aleph pasuk Bet, it says, Yishakeni menashikos pihu ki tovim dodecha miyayin. That my beloved will kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, because your love is more beloved than wine. And if you take a look at the Midrash says, what is this beloved kissing with the kisses of his mouth? So the pasuk says, Yesh ba pasuk hazeh zechirat matan Torah. This pasuk is a reference to the giving of the Torah. That when God kissed the Jewish people with the kisses of his mouth, he enunciated to us firsthand the Aseres Hadibros, the Ten Commandments. And the Medrash goes on. It's Yom Shediber HaKadosh Baruch Hu im Avotenu b'Chorev. It's the day that the Almighty spoke with our ancestors in Chorev at Mount Sinai, Ki'inyan Shenamar, as it says, Min HaShamayim Yishmiach et Kolo, that from heaven God thundered forth his voice. Va'omer hinei anochi bo elecha be'av ha'anan, and God said, behold, I'm coming to you in the thick of the cloud. Va'omer kol divarim atem shomi'im. And it says that God says, you heard the very sound of my voice. V'hotziu b'lashon bakasha. That therefore the Jewish people, when hearkening back to the experience of Har Sinai, they say, Yishakeni minashikos pihu. Oh, if only my beloved would kiss me in the way that he kissed me when we were at Har Sinai, when Hashem kissed us back then. Only Hashem would come back to me again, as I have been rejected, and I have found myself distant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If only he would come again and give me that beautiful kiss. Now, if it is true that the idea of Yishakeni minashikos pihu is reminiscent of, and is a metaphor for Maimed Har Sinai, then perhaps we might suggest that when the pasuk in the story of Ruth says that Naomi kissed her children, Naomi represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and these two people who are the recipients of her love represent the Jewish people and the other nations of the world. And the Jewish people, when we heard Hashem's voice, our response was the gauge to determine whether we were worthy of receiving the Torah. And the reason why a kiss is such an important metaphor is, I think, when you're in a relationship, in a loving relationship, you have to do more than just create parity. Let me explain what I mean. If a guy's dating a girl, and they fall in love, or he falls in love with her, and he says, I love you. And she says, I love you too. Then just to create that reciprocal parity is insufficient. It's not sufficient because each side has to show not just that I'm sort of reflecting your feelings back at you. That's not enough. Because if every time one person is effusive in their love, and the other person says, yeah, okay, I'll go along with that, you know. You brought me flowers, that's so nice, thank you, right? And it's a unilateral kind of relationship where the one initiates the kiss and the other one kisses back because what else am I supposed to do? Right? So then, that doesn't create a very good, balanced relationship. At some point, the person who initiates all of this expression of emotion and love is going to become disenchanted. Yes, you understand the point that I'm trying to make? What was wrong with Orpah's response to Naomi? Naomi kissed her, and all Orpah did was kiss her back. That's not enough. If the other person or the other party initiates that sign of love in the relationship, you can't just reflect it back, because then you're not showing anything innovative of your own. You're not showing that this is something that stirs you from within and that you want to show your own way of expressing love back. You can't just be a mirror of what the other person does, because then that shows a lack of sincerity, a lack of it coming from within. And so it wasn't enough. If Naomi kisses me, I have to do something to show that there's more to me than just the mirroring back of the kiss. I have to do something to show that I'm committed to her in a way that goes beyond just the kiss. And that was the criticism of Orpah, when all she did after Naomi kissed her was to kiss her back. You know, a lot of times I see this happen, you know, especially when women kiss each other, when they greet each other. One woman gives a kiss, maybe men don't do this really. Sometimes men will embrace, but we don't, right? But a woman will give another woman a kiss, the other one will give the other one a peck back, right? So it's sort of like, you know, you do this dance. In other words, you're not really sure, is this a person that's approachable? Is she not approachable? You know, usually you have that one person is much more touchy-feely than the other, right? So sometimes, you know, a woman will give you a little kiss, and you feel, all right, when I'm going to leave her standing there, obviously I'll give her a kiss back, right? But it's, right? So you see that there's that awkwardness sometimes in this connecting with each other. And it's the same thing. So guys, one guy will come and give you a big hug, so the other fellow feels, I wouldn't hug this person, that's not me. But, you know, so I'll hug him back because, you know, all right, because he wants to give me a hug, I'll hug him back, right? And there's always that awkwardness when two people meet each other. But if all you do is just meet the other person's initiation, so then you're showing that it's just, okay, I'll just respond. I'll give it back. But there's nothing there from within you to show that I feel that tremendous love for you like you feel for me. That's the criticism of Orpah, and it is very important for the Jewish people to remember this with Kabbalah Satorah. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I have a Torah to give you, if the Jewish people would have just said, great, we'll take it, that would have been insufficient. Because when God kisses us, we can't just kiss back. We have to show that we are in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu beyond just accepting His gift. And that's why Chazal go to such great extents to tell us that the faithful words that the Jewish people uttered of Na'aseh v'nishma, that we will do and we will hear, that those words made all the difference in the world. That's what made the Jewish people worthy of being the chosen people. Because when we innovated this concept of Na'aseh v'nishma, means we don't need to hear what you have to offer. We'll just do it. We'll just do it because we know if something's coming from you, Hashem, it makes no difference what's in it, although it's good for us. We had to raise the stakes. We had to show that it's not just that we'll take it, but that we love you back, Hashem, just as much as you love us. So that's why Chazal are so effusive in their praise of what the Jewish people did when they said Na'aseh v'nishma. As the Gemara in Shabbos says in the bottom of your sheet, it says B'shah she'ikdimu Yisrael Na'aseh l'nishma. When the Jewish people said, we will do and we will hear, Yatsa Sabat Kol, a heavenly voice came forth from heaven and said, Mi gila levanai razeh, who revealed this secret to my children? Shemalache hashares mishtamshim bo, that only the angels know. This is a secret that only the angels know how to work in that fashion. And then and like the Gemara explains, Bereisha asi v'hadar lishmoa. First the angels act and then they listen. In other words, there's a certain kind of automatic responsiveness to Hashem that comes even before you even can process the information. And then Chazal go on and they say that the Jewish people are ketapuach ba'atzei hayar, that we are like a tapuach, which is a kind of fruit that grows very precociously in the forests, in the trees of the forest. And the Gemara asks, Lama nimshlu yisrael tapuach? Why are the Jewish people compared to a tapuach? Lomar lecha, to teach you, ma tapuach zeh piryo kodem le'alav. Just like this apple tree, the apples or the fruit grows precociously before even its leaves. Af Yisrael hikdimu nasa l'nishma. So too the Jewish people jumped forward. It wasn't just enough for us to accept it. We had to jump forward and show Hashem we're going beyond what the normal reaction would be when someone gives us a kiss. We're not just going to kiss back. We're going to do something. We're going to take the initiative to say, wow, we have to show you, Hashem, that we're excited about this, so that it's not just a response of, okay. So this is something that's so important for Shavuos for us to keep in mind, and I think this is perhaps one of the connections that we can make to the book of Ruth, is that what Ruth did was not just to respond to Naomi's love reciprocally, just to give her back the same mirror image of what she had given to her. We have to do the same to Hashem. On Shavuos, it's not just enough for God to say, okay, God says, I give you mitzvahs, you have 613 mitzvahs, okay, God will do them. We can't just do them. We have to say, we're excited. This is something that we've waited our whole lives for, this kind of relationship. And if we don't show that kind of enthusiasm to take the initiative and to go beyond what the minimum is expected of us, then we're just like Orpah, who's just kissing back Naomi, with the same kind of kiss that Naomi gave to her. What Hashem is expecting of us, He's asking us to do, is take what I've given you and make something of it well beyond what you've been asked to. And that's why Chazal are so effusive in praising the idea of constantly innovating additional ways of expressing the mitzvahs of the Torah. So that's something that I think that we should take from the story. Yes?
What about parts from Shir Shirim? It means the desire to get the pieces would be sufficient.
Yishakeni minashikos pihu. I'm waiting for Hashem to kiss me again, to have that kind of revelation so that I can respond in kind. I'm waiting to respond in kind. So this is what happens every Shavuos. If Shavuos is a recreation of Matan Torah, so therefore when I say Yishakeni minashikos pihu, really what I'm suggesting is that we have to, once God kisses us again, so we have to know how to respond. We can't just respond by kissing back. Yes?
Did Ruth only convert after her husband had died? Because Orpah didn't convert. It wasn't when they married their husband. It was only when she joined Naomi.
Yeah, it seems like the formal conversion process of accepting the way of life as a Jew only happened after her husband died. Yes. It's problematic. The whole story is problematic from that standpoint, because then it turns out that her husband married a non-Jewess, and then if that were the case, and her conversion took place after her husband died, then she was not in any way related to Naomi, in which case there was no reason for Boaz to act as her redeemer, her family redeemer, because she wasn't a member of the family. So I leave that up to the commentaries. Yes?
You talked about reasoning with feeling like badly for Orpah, because point she didn't react with the enthusiasm and the excitement that you're suggesting that would be terrible for Israel. But did it deserve the punishment? Because she was responsible. She was following her mother-in-law's suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that there was punishment. Obviously, there was conflict between the Philistines, who were, these descendants of Orpah, and King David's kingdom, and his army. And those conflicts arose out of different ideologies and different nationhoods and different identities. And eventually there was a war. But the question is, who's going to win the war? At the end of the day, the person who's going to win the war is the person who shows that commitment to Hashem that goes far beyond just mirroring back. Okay. Okay, so with that, I hope you have a wonderful Yontif and have a wonderful Kabbalah Satorah.